Okay, well, enough with the hot take. I guess we're going logic takes then. Okay, fine. Reasonable, logical takes. Okay.
Welcome back to Bread and Butter, where we are serving up the basics for Hearthstone improvement. I am Tito Santana. I'm filling in for Doc as my co-host is out doing some interpretive dancing or something. I forget. It's one of his relatives is doing a ballroom dancing, and he's going to watch that. Unfortunately, we were not able to change the night that we have this recording. We're recording on a Thursday. We have the wonderful Dragonrider filling in for him. Dragonrider, how are you tonight?
I'm good. Yes, I put in the show notes. Hi, I'm not Doc, but I'm here. So there's that.
2 weeks in a row, too. But we also have, the reason why we're recording on a Thursday night is we have a very special guest, and that's L0rinda. L0rinda, how are you doing today?
Hey, we're doing good, yeah. It's been a long day, so if I slurve a bit, let me off. But yeah, it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to it.
And yeah, I think you had a long day yesterday, too, so we're coming off a double long day, if I understand right. But what have you been doing inside of Hearthstone?
Hearthstone, obviously, we've got the Whizbangs workshop going on now. And I did the thing where I played Sludge Warlock again just for 20 games, just to see where the meta was at. Decided that I didn't want to play Warrior, didn't want to play Paladin. I do want to play Hunter, but I didn't. And I ended up playing Big Demon Hunter, which isn't even an archetype. I'm doing fine with it, so I haven't changed it yet.
Well, yeah, you started with the Sludge, but you threw in the Doom Guards. You did the right thing. You made it a little more powerful. How did that feel?
It felt fine. I think the deck's absolutely fine. Anything with the word charge on it in Hearthstone, as we're learning now with Paladin again, it was removed for a reason. Reason being it's disgustingly strong. And yeah, Doomguard was really, really good. The entire deck, I mean, it hasn't lost anything. The new power level isn't massively over the top. I think Sludge Warlock will slowly but surely creep back on us, I'm afraid.
Well, that's okay. You played that for like a month going into this, so I'm sure you're happy. You tend to like the slow meta, I think, or the solve kind of old decks that you can play for 1,000 games.
Yeah, I'm kind of a slow, methodical learner, so I want to play the same stuff over and over again until I get good at it. Doesn't quite work with the casting. I have to sort of play everything 20 times and give up. But yeah, I do like to play the same stuff over and over again. I don't like slow. I don't know. I want to, if I go on a losing streak, I don't want it to take 9 hours to get the losing streak back or something. But yeah. So I prefer snappy metas, but yeah, this methodical over and over again metas. Good for me.
So you're saying you did not enjoy the Luciana Control Warrior Specialist meta?
No, I don't enjoy control metas at all. They're not for me. But again, I don't mind that they happen as long as they're not too long, like a couple of months maybe, because everyone deserves a go at what they like. But I want my games to finish. So, current Odin, for instance, even though I don't particularly like the deck, at least they kill you, so the game is over, so that's fine.
And Dragonrider, what have you been up to in the world of Hearthstone?
Well, I tend to spend a bit of time at the beginning of an expansion, kind of just trying out my own stuff. Sometimes I don't even look at what other people are playing the first couple of days, just build my own decks and try stuff out, and tend to usually come to the conclusion yeah, okay, these decks or these cards are not good, and then I see what other people are doing and I'm like, yeah, not the things that I was trying. But I like doing that. Well, just to kind of see if there's going to be any sort of big hot fixes or major nerfs that we need the first handful of days. And then after that, it's kind of okay, I played the things that I wanted to test out and see, and then after that, it's all right, now I'll move to meta decks and seeing what's going on. But I think there's been some fun stuff. And I am also glad to hear that L0rinda has been playing some Demon Hunter, because I have been playing some Demon Hunter and it's fun.
Well, L0rinda, you built your own Demon Hunter from scratch. How did you decide on your archetype there?
So I wanted to play the new card. I've actually got the list of card names in front of me because I'm a little bit tired and forgetting things. Yeah, the Window Shopper. So I wanted to play Window Shopper. I wanted it to be cheap, so I threw in Fell Screamers, which make it cheaper. I wanted to play Mag, so I threw in Magtheridon. I wanted to play Inquisitors, the green rag, so I threw those in. And then we went through the 1 and 2 drops with chat, and it's these are all rubbish, what do I do? Chat threw some ideas in, and just put the deck together, and it kind of worked first time. I haven't been able to improve it. Every time I put things in, it goes a step back. So kind of with the original build, outside of like 2 cards, it's really weird. It just works. It kills people really fast.
Now, have you posted this so we can start calling it L0rinda DH?
Of course, yeah. It's on Twitter with everyone else's day 1 70% win rate decks. Yeah, it's always up there somewhere. And it's gone from top 2,000 to top 500. We're still climbing today, so we'll see where that ends up.
Fantastic. I've also been doing my own building. I've been building my own version of the Paladin, the buff Paladin, which I did really, really well on day 1, which is usually the opposite. Usually I just tank my rank on day 1. So the first day I did really, really well. And then my second day was the day that I dropped about 8,000 ranks and things just weren't going. But I've had a real good time. I've been trying to make my own version, like I said, it kind of leans into the mechs a little bit. So it has the 1/3 that if it dies, any mechs that were magnetized to it go back to your hand. And it has the, obviously the Muscletron, and we printed Mermies because we have the prosthetic hand, the hand guy. So that can attach to undead or mechs. So the idea is we have sticky board, and even if something dies, we can have almost charged by throwing some of these minions, magnetize them on and go. So it's going really well. And I played a lot of Dancing Paladin too, which really did well on day 1. Had a lot of fun with that because there's nothing that people hate more than having lots of taunts that keep popping up in their way and then taunts that become more taunts. So I enjoyed that. I am going to start playing meta decks, but I'm working on also figuring out what I'm going to put on the Asia and EU accounts. I want to, obviously I'm going to put some Paladin stuff on there, but I also want to put stuff on there that I'm not going to play on Americas, because if it's bad, it's fine if I don't care about those accounts. And I should have done that with the Black Rock and Roll Warrior that I've been trying to build again, because that was a big portion of why I lost a lot of ranks. But that deck is just so fun, and it's so close. It's always so close to being good. And you get these big, huge minions, and you're like, oh, I almost had him that time. And I did really well with it last week in the Franken meta, but now it's just like, it just keeps you in there long enough to say, I'll keep doing this. And it's wrong. It's the reason why you keep coming up just short is because the deck is flawed. But the other thing I did before the rotation was we did the Friday Night Hype tournament, and I got a first round bye because of the number of people and the way it does. And my first opponent was Language Hacker. So, fine. I actually won game 1 very convincingly. Buff Paladin, not Buff Paladin, but like pure Paladin, played very aggressively and got him. My next 2 matchups were very favorable, and I think I played really well, but unfavorable matchups plus Grandmaster equals Tito lose. So, it is what it is, but I enjoy the experience, and hopefully we can translate that to having him on the show one of these days. But anyway.
He's a good chatter, Language Hacker.
Oh, good. Because when people don't chat, that's no fun on a podcast.
Exactly, yeah. He'll be a good person to have, for sure.
So, L0rinda, what have you been doing outside of the game?
Does not compute. Outside of the game, I don't do a lot outside of the game. Watching a lot of wrestling. Been catching up on AEW wrestling from years ago, just about up to date now. I go long walks, and I play a lot of Hearthstone, and then I watch Hearthstone, and then Hearthstone. So outside of the game, I don't really do a lot. So, yeah, awkward answer, but I saw that was a thing you might ask me. But yeah, don't do much outside of Hearthstone.
Now, you watch a lot of wrestling. Are you familiar with my namesake, Tito Santana?
I am, yes, absolutely. Intercontinental champion.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore, probably, but yeah.
No, I'm assuming that he's passed that belt on at some point. How about yourself, Don? What have you been up to?
My usual slew of a bajillion things, it feels like. My multiple podcasts. Been trying to work on videos. Did get to do the theory crafting, so was on the show last week, and then we talked about it a lot, and then did an AFG set review, so that was a lot of fun last week. Been working through, I'm a couple of weeks into school now, so been working through my class, prepping for the next THL season, which is going to be starting very soon. I'm very excited. I have a full team of ladies. So we're going to have a full ladies team for the season. I'm very excited for that. And now at this point, I'm kind of just playing a bunch of Hearthstone, seeing what that's going to bring, and waiting on when we're finally going to get, I say finally, the game just came out. But for me, since I've been following it, like since it was announced, I feel like it's taken forever for Star Wars Unlimited to announce when they're going to be like doing their competitive events and like what those are going to be, actually looking like. Because the website just says like coming soon, info coming soon. And I'm like, okay, but when? Like you put out the rules a few weeks ago and like, okay, I need to know like when these events are so I can start doing some Star Wars Unlimited competitive stuff. So that's what I've been focusing on outside of Hearthstone.
And to be fair, you didn't just do a little podcasting last week. You did your Doctor 3. You did your streaming of the event. You did our show. And then you did like 5 hours of gaming roundtable reviewing the whole set. You literally had a mic in your face for most of last week.
I did. Yeah. Last week, I did 6 days in a row of either streaming or podcasting or some mix. And I think the shortest of them was probably this show, which ran an hour and a half. And all the other ones were probably much longer than that. But yeah, it was Tito came into the 6th day stream when we did our AFG review. It's like, can you step away from the microphone for 5 minutes? I was like, no, people need to hear what I have to say. Which honestly, actually, a few years ago, I feel like a lot of people were telling me like, hey, you're on podcasts. You're like doing these guest spots on, casting and stuff. Like, fill up time. Like, you need to talk more. And now I can't shut up. So thank you to everyone who told me I need to talk, because now apparently I just don't stop.
Well, that's the opposite of me. I've been being told to shut up for most of my life. So,
same.
It is what it is. And for me, I've had a relatively uneventful week. My son did his first Taekwondo tournament this weekend, which was fun. He did what's called Poomsae, which is when they do their forms, when they kind of like move their arms and punch and block and stuff. But there's like a dance to it, and he competed in that, and he got second place, which was good. And then he got third place in they have, the little boards they break, and you have to set up a routine too, where it's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And he got third place in that. And I thought he did really, really good. And it was just a lot of fun for him. And the nice thing about it was a long day. And they had, my son's 9, and they had the 9-year-olds and younger at the end of the day, where if I'm doing it, I have them at the beginning of the day because they have the attention span of gnats. But overall, he did a really good job of keeping, being bored and not being whiny about it, and kind of being focused and taking the stuff in. They had demo team competitions where it's like a group of 15 to 25 people all in this little arena, and they have music playing, and they have 6 minutes, and they're doing like fake fighting and breaking boards and synchronized Taekwondo. And it was really fun and interesting. And I think he enjoyed watching that. I actually enjoyed watching that. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he takes this and takes what he's doing more seriously, because he's doing really well with it. But, I want to see if he's going to latch onto this and actually progress and go towards black belt and actually start, making a part of him. And so far he really loves it. And it's been great for, just his stamina and his body. So that's been great. So now I'm going to insert 5 minutes of just noise, because this is where Doc would usually give his update of what he's been doing. And I know it takes about 5 to 10 minutes. So we'll add that to the podcast at the end. But anyway, that's enough about us. Dawn, why don't we get to know our guest a little bit better?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. So, L0rinda, let's start off talking about your card game history. You used to compete in Magic the Gathering. And in fact, you were ranked top 20 in the UK at one point. How'd you get started in that? And what was that like?
So yeah, Magic the Gathering came out when I was at uni, and one of my friends discovered it. Actually, after I finished uni. When my friends discovered it, said, hey, there's a new card game. We'd buy a starter pack and a couple of boosters and play what we thought was the game. And then I sort of put it away for a while. And then somehow got back into it when a local group started up or something. I can't even remember exactly. And then just started going to tournaments, and the same four of us just went to tournament after tournament after tournament. As always, when I get into something, I took it very seriously. Was never as good as the three people I used to hang out with, not even close. But I was good enough to play test with. So we shared cards, we lent each other cards, we took each other places. And yeah, I loved it. There was no internet. Like, we'd get occasional deck lists from tournaments. Like, somebody had a printer and somebody had a work internet, and found some like the Magic Dojo, and would go on there and print off some decks for us to try out and see what they did. It was a very different experience to today. I think some people still cling on to that, but the world has moved on. You have to move on too. You can't just make your own decks anymore and expect them to work at a tournament. And yeah, I used to love it. I used to make my own stuff. People used to come and watch my games because they were worried what I would bring, that I might one day actually bring something good. I was the sort of player you didn't want to play in round one of the Swiss, but you really did want to play in the top 8. I was sort of somewhere in that category. Like, I was the easiest top 8 beating every time, but you didn't want me to try and stop you getting there because I was good enough to cause an upset or two.
Now what kind of what were your colors? Did you have like a go-to kind of style?
I played a lot of blue-black. I played a lot of blue. Heck of a lot of blue. Which you wouldn't expect from me whining today, but it was my experiences playing blue and realising how inadequate I was at aggro that made me realise that control was actually easy, and that's why I played it. But I qualified for the Pro Tour with my home-brewed combo deck, which sums up modern L0rinda a hell of a lot better.
Fair enough. I'm just curious, what was there a theme that because we know we have some Magic the Gathering fans that listen. Do you have like, what was it exactly besides blue and counterspell?
It was one of the things that it was untapped land, so you'd play Bubbling Mutt, which made your black mana doubled. Yawgmoth's Bargain or Yawgmoth's Will, whichever one it was, let you get stuff out your graveyard, and all your blue cards just untapped lands and did something. And it was incredibly convoluted combo. The turn that won the game took 20 minutes every time. And yeah, everyone hated playing against it. And I went to Gen Con, laid the deck out in front of everyone in the sort of the big tents they have at Gen Con. Told everyone I was going to go to the Pro Tour with this, got laughed at, played a 10-year-old child in round 1 who beat me with red, mono, hit me in the head, I died. And then 3 weeks later I went to Doncaster and qualified for the Pro Tour with it. And everyone stopped laughing. It was great.
I love stories like that. Just like, I feel like I've heard several stories like that across multiple card games, and those are my favorite. I love it.
I really wanted to win that tournament.
Okay. Well, I was just curious, how did that bring you into Hearthstone then? Like, how did you transition or find your way from playing Magic and then finding your way to Hearthstone?
So to this day, I don't think I got a beta Hearthstone key because the Magic players knew I would leave. I was getting quite disillusioned with Magic. They started not increasing prize pools as players' numbers went from like 200 at Grand Prix to several thousand, and the prize pools remained the same. And the entry fee was like equivalent to like $50. And yeah, you have to be playing for a small prize that would have been more fitting for a 200-player tournament. I can't remember what the decisions were, but Wizards of the Coast making decisions that I personally didn't like, and being a lot younger, I was like, I don't like this decision. I don't want to play this game anymore. You see it on Twitter all the time with some people now. They'll go out one day. And I decided I want to play something else. And after one of the big tournaments, somebody showed me Hearthstone, and yeah, I never looked back. I pretty much quit Magic on the spot and took up Hearthstone straight away.
A little cheaper, as well.
Yes. And didn't need to meet up with my friends in the pub every night, and if they couldn't make it, you played on your own and all that. You just go online and play somebody. It was great.
Nice. So how did you go from playing to casting?
So I started streaming pretty soon after I started playing in 14? Must be 10 years. And met up with Sottle very early on. I was streaming to like 9 players, and he was streaming to like 22 viewers, and we played a little tournament, and we ended up playing against each other. And I sort of messaged him and said, hey, do you mind if I send my viewers to you and you send yours to mine? It's a bit cheeky because you're twice as big as me. Who cares? 9 viewers, 22 viewers. We didn't know. And that ended up being the intro to somebody who was running some tournaments, or they were trying to do a project to stream Chinese tournaments in English. and they wanted casters to do it for free. And it wasn't one of those schemes where they're making a fortune and you work for free. This is literally, he was doing it for free, we were doing it for free. No one was making any money. It was just a project. Do you want to do it or don't you? Or don't care. But if you want to do it, here it is. He made nothing out of it. Callum Leslie, shout him out. He made nothing from it. We made nothing from it. Derek did some of those casts. D2 did some of those casts. And then I just always made sure I took alternative clothing to events in case a caster dropped out. I was always on hand if I knew a big tournament was about, let people know, hey, I exist. If I heard they were short, and eventually someone said, well, that L0rinda person, they've done some bits and pieces casting, we're one short, let's give them a go. And then it sort of snowballed from there, really. I got in at a very good time when lots and lots of events were on. All the good casters were always tied up doing things, so I became trustworthy. It's like, yeah, L0rinda's not great, but they won't mess up your cast. It'll be fine. They'll talk a lot and talk about Hearthstone a bit. It'll be rubbish, but it'll be a sound. So slowly but surely, just listened to a lot of people and did what I could. And then I won the caster competition, the So You Think You Can Cast for Blizzard in 2015, I think it was. And then obviously your name's been on the big screen on Play Hearthstone, and then you get hired a lot, and it's a lot easier. Back then, not so easy now. I see Dawn nodding, but yeah, not so easy now as there's not hundreds of events every week anymore.
Yeah, quite a few less.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh. So, speaking of you talked about Sottle and all them and Dawn. The casters all seem to work very well together, and you guys seem almost like you've become like a family, and from the outside anyway, and that you guys all support each other. What's that group dynamic like? And second question, not to go on with that, who do you think you have the best chemistry casting with?
Well, the first part, I think it's exactly right. Everyone does support each other. Anyone new who comes along, everyone tries to look after them, make sure that they're not nervous and they're getting plenty of opportunity to talk and stuff. Whereas, again, back in the olden days, there's 30 people trying to get the main casting job, and if someone you were casting, it was almost like a competition, so you never had chemistry. It was always like they'd start saying, well, did you know this about this card? And go, yes, and also, did you know this? And it was like, who could be the best sort of thing. And a lot of those early casts for people were terrible. It must have been awful to listen to people trying to just show how great they were at the game. But hopefully now, anyone who gets sort of to do a guest cast or gets it to do regular casts but hasn't done it before, hopefully everyone sort of mucks in. We all try to look after each other. There's a lot of stress that comes with it that no one will understand unless you've done it. It's one of those sort of, oh no, the woes of being paid to talk about a computer game. Yeah, no one else wants to hear that. But people who are doing it with you don't mind listening to that. So we all look after each other. And, I mean, in the case of Sottle, in the case of Raven, we've known each other for 9.5 years now, which is a shame for them, but I like it.
Fair enough. Now, this is a little side question, but I know you guys would get some grief from some of the players when you would make a call and you would maybe say, question their play and all that. How often did that come up, and did anyone ever kind of attack you for it?
Oh, I mean, it's happened, and I mean, for the longest time, I was absolutely terrible at everything I did. And you have to be objective, right? So what I used to do is watch the VODs back. If one person says, hey, L0rinda's crud at this, why are they doing it? I'd be like, ignore the comment. If 17 people at the same time type, lol, what are they doing? What's this rubbish they're talking? Then you look at what you said and think, well, why is everybody suddenly exploded all at once? So that's probably a valid criticism, right? If everybody at once instantly reacts to something you said, you probably said something dumb. If one person in the chat's having a go, that's the person in chat. We don't care about you. But yeah, take it seriously in terms of there's probably something I can learn from this, but don't take it personally, because I sit and watch wrestling. I used to sit and watch sports. I've shouted at every commentator for being rubbish at some point. So call it karma if you want, but also it's just what you do when you're watching an event. The commentator's the focal point of what you're hearing, and if you don't agree with it, you're going to think they're doing a bad thing. In my instance, the casting relationship I have with TJ in particular, we used to go on last after APAC and Europe had 12 hours of Hearthstone, and TJ and I worked towards a chemistry that was chatty and light-hearted, because we're both watching the game. TJ's incredibly good at Hearthstone. I'm okay at Hearthstone. But people don't want to hear, oh, he's hit him with the weapon in the head for the 2000th time that day. So we'll talk about boats or something else, and we'll keep an eye on the Hearthstone in case something exciting happens. Of course we will. But after 12 hours of Hearthstone, some people have listened to that all day long. They just don't want to hear the same exact thing over and over again. Some people want free coaching. We're not coaches, we're commentators. You can see what's happening on the screen for yourself. That's my opinion, by the way. Other people will disagree with this, and that's fine. But you can see what's happening on the screen for yourself. You don't need us to play-by-play it every single time. So try and add a bit of flavour to it, try and add a bit of fun to it, and also try and still set the background, tell you who's winning, tell you who's losing, in case you do want a bit of help. So it's mixing it up. And that was what we decided. Well, we didn't decide. That's where we ended up doing it.
Fair enough. All right, Don, I'll take the next question since it kind of is a similar question for you, but then, and then we can throw it to you. Now that Blizzard has been kind of pulling back on esports, how has it affected you and the other casters? I mean, besides the obvious, like the opportunities aren't there. What have you guys been doing to kind of compensate for that and adjust for that kind of change?
Is that to me again? Sorry.
Yeah, that's you. We're interviewing you.
Okay. Just talking straight to me. I just want to make sure I'm not just talking over everybody for the whole time like I do when I'm casting. It's a shame. I mean, obviously it's less money, less work, blah, blah, blah. But it's a shame that there's less variety in the players we get to see. Preparing for a 300 players Masters Tour and making sure you've heard of as many as possible of those people and do a bit of research, even if it's this person likes Hunter. It doesn't have to be a lot of research to get somebody invested in a player if they don't know them. It's a little bit less exciting in that regard. Try and look on the bright side. It is obviously, I'm not going to spin it as good, but there is still a program. We do still get to see the current best players in the world play, and try and keep spirits up and make sure that we do the best we can with the events that do exist and show whoever it is that is choosing to pull back on esports. That'll be a business decision. It's our job to show them that, hey, this is still a thing. This is the thing we can make exciting and we can get viewers for. And quick shout out, if you want to watch more Hearthstone, make sure you watch the Hearthstone there is, because that's the best way we can sell it to Blizzard as things they want. Otherwise, if no one watches it thinking, oh, there's not enough to watch, then Blizzard will say, well, no one's watching it. Why should we make more?
1B, after the tournaments, buy a pack or two. Because what they want to see is that people watching the show translates to money in their pockets. So that'll help too. Anyway, Dawn, why don't you ask the next couple questions?
Well, just before we get into the next question, just to pivot off that, I feel like that was absolutely what we did for Worlds last year in December. We were like, that at that point, like nobody knew anything, right? We were like, this could be the last Hearthstone event like ever, right? So, people were like, this could be it. This could be the last thing. And it was kind of like, let's just give it all we got and just try to make this like the best thing we can, whether it is the last thing or not. But, definitely, I feel like, especially with so few, we almost have to do that. Just go in and say, like, just make it as good as we can. And hope it's not the last one. So, all right. Well, we did have some questions from Doc as well. So we just wanted to make sure that we kind of plug some of those. So Doc also wants to know, what is your favorite moment as a caster?
That's really difficult. I'm terrible at favorites. I have a terrible memory. But the most memorable moment, I don't think it's fair to call this my favorite, was the Coach Twisted match. Where Coach Twisted was 5-0 playing Razaka's Priest, and his brain just melted. He just had the worst game of Hearthstone anyone's ever played. He's 5-0. He's a very good player. Like, let's not beat up on Coach Twisted for the millionth time on that one match. And he just lost it at the end of the day. I was casting with Noxious, and Cora was just off to the side as the host. And Cora was banging her head on the table while I'm trying to keep a straight face. And we're making slowly and slowly. It's a long day for us. We're on the 6th match of the day. And Nox and I just made more and more sarcastic comments as we went along while still trying to do a professional job, because, it's not fair just to bully the person who's having a terrible game. We've all done it. I've had plenty of them. But the second Corva started banging her head on the table, I did lose it a bit. So that was the most memorable. The most favourite moment, getting to cast the final match of Worlds, the year Bunny Hopper won. That's like, again, going back to wrestling, you've cast the main event. That's the highest thing I can do, because I'm not going to be in the main event. And getting to do that was like says that I made it and that I had a career that did something. It meant a lot. And there's numerous people winning where they've come backstage. Amnesiac came backstage and was crying after he won his first tournament. Never told anyone that though, so shh. Because he was quite like he gave quite a solid outer persona. But to see him come backstage in tears, having finally won one, because he did miss out a lot, was probably the one that springs to mind right now. Ask me tomorrow, probably get a totally different answer. But yeah, that's what's in my mind at this moment.
I think that's a very good one, and I think getting to see some of those players just show their emotions are some of like my favorites. I mean, right, Lion, like everybody was emotional when Lion won and had that. I feel like even more recently, Pocket Train, like I feel like a lot of people resonate with that. So I always love seeing that. But not just their emotions maybe after matches, but is there a match that you watched and didn't cast that you wish you would have casted? Doc wants to know.
I'm going to cheat on this one. I did when China had the team league. I did a lot of casting over their videos for YouTube. Solo cast them. They all got 30 viewers each because not many people wanted to see the Chinese Hearthstone. But some of the players were players we know. There was Team Liquid involved, and I'm trying to remember the Chinese player's name, and I cannot for the life of me remember it right now. But Bunny Hopper played a best of 5 that went 3 hours on an edited video, so no fluff between games or anything. He told me the real match was about 3.5 hours, and it was incredible. And I wish that had been live broadcast. So yes, I did cast that, but that match was something else, and he ended up losing it as well. He was 2-0 up, and then the reason it went so long is he lost 3 in a row with Priest, including a Priest mirror, and the other players resolved to just keep going from 2-0 down against Bunny Hopper and just go, and just hang in there and finally get it done. I was freaking out despite the fact I felt like falling asleep. It was incredible. I'll dig it out on YouTube and give it to Tito at some point for the notes if you want.
We used to talk about storylines, right? You mentioned that earlier, and that used to be my favorite thing. Is you'd find a player in a pool of 64 that you were rooting for. Like we were all rooting for Dog earlier to make that jump, and sadly he won in Las Vegas over Gallon, which we were also rooting for. And but like there's always some story, or there used to be more than there is now, I think. Did you have a favorite story or a storyline about somebody coming through these tournaments that you really kind of like rooted for or wanted them to see them succeed?
I mean, Hunter Ace didn't win his first 2 finals, lost them both, I believe. That could be wrong, but from memory right at this time in the morning, I think he lost his first 2 finals. And we all knew he was the best player in the world. Just Saying was the only person even on his level, and nobody else was close. And then just rooting for Hunter Ace to first of all win a tournament, which he did at the 3rd attempt. And then the year he had, just because I was lucky enough to travel a lot that year, I wasn't on the top rotation at the time. That was sort of Kibler, Admirable and Co. Frodan. But I was because of that, I got to travel to all the Dream Hacks, do all the second tier events, which is where everybody was pushing for points over and over again, week to week. So I got to see all the players every week, or 3 times a month, basically. And everyone wanted Hunter Ace to do well, apart from themselves, obviously. And him progressing through that year, just winning and coming second and coming 4th and stuff week after week after week, and then going on to win the World Championships. That whole storyline, straightforward though it was, good player wins thing, is not a particularly exciting story, but to watch it unfold live was actually incredible. I think, that would be my favourite storyline for sure.
That's a good one. That's kind of how I feel about, like, from my end watching Pocket Train over this last year. Like, kept getting so close in those Masters tours, and then he got there finally with the World. So I love seeing storylines like that. I'm kind of curious, is there this isn't in our doc, but is there a player that you feel like didn't really get to shine as much as you wish they had?
Fury Hunter. I mean, he shone.
Yeah.
He won a lot of things, but he didn't get to play in Worlds. He missed out by one match or two matches, 3 times in the same year.
Repetitively.
Absolutely wish he had managed to get a world title. He had a lot of wins. He got good stuff out of Hearthstone, but he's the one that he didn't flop at all. He just got unlucky at crucial moments. And had it been a points year, he'd probably have been in. If Fury Hunter brought a lot of character to the game, and for a while, for sure, he was the best player as well. Pocket Train was sort of in his shadow for that year, just coming through. Pocket Train was still getting better and better and learning the tournament scene a little bit. He was always incredibly good. They all worked together. I listened in on their playtest group from time to time. They politely let me listen in occasionally. So they all worked together. But I think if Fury Hunter had won Worlds, everyone would have freaked out. It's amazing. But Bunny Hopper won it, which is absolutely fine. Sure. Yeah. Very, very, very powerful player.
So if you could relive one of the matches, this is another Doc question. If you could relive a match you've casted already, was there a match you'd want to do again or experience what you had in that moment?
I mean, again, Coach Twisted match was one I'd do. Let's try and think of another though. I'm really bad at favourites. There was an incredible final. Just Saying versus Fino somewhere in American DreamHack. I cast it with Dr. Jikininki, Dr. J. And he was still fairly new to casting. He was always an incredible talker. He was better than me at talking, always. But he hadn't cast much, so in theory, my job was to sort of steer the conversation and stuff, which is ridiculous. Putting me in charge of steering anything is going to result in it crashing into a wall. But after, Dr. J had worked out quickly this was going to be exciting, and he basically went into scream and shout mode. And halfway through game 2, I decided, you know what? I don't care this is a final. We're not analysing anything. We're going to scream and shout because that's how this final is going to go. And it was absolutely the right choice. We just screamed and shouted for whatever it was, 90 minutes, 2 hours. Had a great time. I think everyone watching had a great time on that one, which is always nice. And the match was, I think he went 3-2 to Saiyan in the end. And they were two of the players that hadn't yet won one that year. So we were sort of rooting for both sides. A lot of people were rooting for both sides. And yeah, I think that was a lot of fun because we literally just let it go.
I feel, man, some of those dream hacks were just amazing. I feel like they really were.
They really were.
Okay, well, I think we'll transition here into our last quick questions, which I kind of labeled as content and extras, maybe condiments, because we're a food-based show. So these are our kind of condiments questions here. The first one is, it's kind of been a while. Maybe you don't necessarily engage in streaming quite as much. It's been a little off and on.
No.
What is
actually? That's
really
no. So he used to stream
the other way.
The other way. So he used to be somewhat streaming kind of occasionally, and over the last year, he's really kind of made streaming his Hearthstone kind of life almost, because you're on not consistently every day, every week, but you stream a lot. So how have you enjoyed that? And is that something that you want to continue to grow? And do you think about branching out into other content like other people tend to do?
So I'll start with the last bit first. No plans to branch out. I think people in general spread themselves too thin too quickly. I understand the desire to be on multiple platforms, make a lot of money, do all that stuff. But I feel like focusing on one thing and doing that one thing the best I can is what fits for me best. So I will be sticking to Twitch largely, or whichever platform ends up being the big one, but Twitch for now. I love it. Despite how I look some days, and some days I'm not enjoying myself. Don't get me wrong. No one enjoys losing over and over again. And I can get a bit, grumpy and shout at people, including yourself at times, and so on. But I absolutely love it. I love coming out the other side when I have a bad run and turning it around. I love chatting to the same people over and over every day. You get to, it's like a little family, especially if it's a smaller stream. So, I get to be able to actually ask people, not personal questions, but at least, find out how their day was and stuff, which you can't do in a 3,000 person stream. Not that I'd mind a 3,000 person stream. If you want to watch, come watch. But I love it. I intend to keep doing, like you say, it's sporadic. I try and stream every day. I try and take one long walk a week. I try and take one day off to myself a week. And by a week, I mean 8 or 9 days, because a week doesn't break down into nice compartments when you want to do 3 or 4 days streaming, then have a day off, then do 3 or 4 days streaming. Those numbers, 3 plus 2 plus 4 plus 2 or whatever, don't add up to 7 very well. So that's why the schedule's a bit ropey at times. And then the weather says, well, you can't walk today, so I stream again. But yeah, I intend to stream consistently. I learned the first few times I streamed that you shouldn't be scared of taking a week off if you have a real life thing to do. If you're averaging 70 viewers and you take a week off to do something that's actually real life and with real people and that you're going to enjoy, yeah, you might lose 5 of those 70 viewers because they get out of the habit and go elsewhere. But you're living a life at the same time. They'll come back if you're any good. So trust yourself. Not that I do. Don't get me wrong. I'm sounding all confident and excitable here on someone's podcast, trying to make it sound like I'm great. But everyone has the same self-doubt. But I will stream as much as I can. But I'm also going to live my life as I can as well, if possible.
Yeah, you self-deprecate quite a bit, I think. Like, you are a much better Hearthstone player than you give yourself credit for. You're a much better streamer than you give yourself credit for. So I think that you just kind of... I think I would guess that self-deprecation is something that is core to your persona in just general. But do you feel called out, Don? Because at the beginning of that, I mean, it was kind of like the opposite of you right there.
Yeah. Also, yeah, here you go. Here's some. It helps to read properly. Yeah. I wasn't gonna like call myself out on that, but here I am anyways. It's like, yeah, I just totally messed that up. See, yeah, I self-deprecate, but very quietly. That's my problem. Is that outwardly I'm like, yeah, this is great, and then like after I end the stream or after the broadcast is over, then I'm like, oh my god, I failed at that. I was terrible. Everybody hates me now. Oh no. I'm never going to get to do it again.
And
then I just fall apart.
And you keep getting invited back, and you're absolutely fine at everything. Great.
Well, as are you. There are quite a few people.
It's so nice. I like
it. I will say, not just quite a few people. There are many, many people that love you as a caster. And I think it's great to have the variety of like personalities in casting. I think that makes it a much better, more enjoyable broadcast overall. So I love it.
So Dawn, I'll take the next one because this doesn't apply to you. So like myself, you're a bit older than a lot of the Hearthstone community. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just kind of like a factual thing. Have you found that to be a negative or positive as you've been building kind of technically your brand when you've been streaming?
When I first started, I thought it was going to be a huge, huge negative. But I think it's a slight positive. Again, go back to what Dawn just said. It's the variety. There's surprising number of people, over 40 play Hearthstone and play games these days. It's not, raising hand, both of us. Because anyone sort of 55 or younger grew up with computers. So, anyone whose mum and dad was 60 or something, sure, they probably didn't grow up with computers. There's a very, very rapid cutoff at about 55 years old where people either had a computer or didn't as a kid. And the generation gap is absolutely huge there. But anyone under about 55 has played computer games before you were born. Don't worry about it. And I find that I do get people, a lot of lurkers in my chat quite often. Well, I'm actually your age, L0rinda. I watch you because you've got the same take on it as I have. We understand being a little bit slow on the mouse. We understand the occasional brain fart where you just do the completely wrong thing because you're old and stupid. So slight positive, partly variety and partly there is an audience out there that are the same age as me.
And one kind of side question on that, you do tend to be on the streams be like, I don't know what is even happening. Like, what is that card? What are they doing? How much of that is just kind of overplaying kind of into like the almost role that you're playing there? Or is that just you generally being like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah, so I said when I started streaming that I realized after about a week, it is impossible to be on screen 7 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week and lie. It's just, you just cannot do it. You're going to make a mistake. You're going to say something that gives it all away at some point, and everyone's going to go, we're not going to watch this fraud anymore. Okay? So everything I say and do on there is at least based in fact. Now, sure, someone will say, I've never seen this card before. It doesn't always mean I've never seen that card before, but it does mean, why is this card here right now? I've never seen this card in this situation before. And honestly, quite often it means I've never seen this card before. I just don't remember it existing. So somewhere in between the two things there. Exaggerate yourself on a stream, obviously, is a thing that streamers do, but none of it is not based in fact. And I have a terrible memory. So someone in the chat will say, yeah, but you saw that card last week. Did I? Good. Good for you. I'm glad you remember me seeing that card last week, because my memory doesn't remember it. And again, if I'm losing, I'll say anything. Like, if I've lost 5 games in a row and I say a thing, I just forget it. It doesn't matter. I've lost 5 games in a row. All that matters in my head right now, all I can see is the number 5 in massive capitals in my head. I can't see words anymore. Just trying to desperately win a game. Leave me alone.
And I think what people that don't do streaming or create content don't realize is you don't remember everything you said and done. Like, it's kind of like a blank void on a lot of it. So you can come sit down and have a conversation on the podcast, or have a conversation with somebody, and you'll ask a question. Oh, hey, where you from? You're not going to remember where that person's from unless you've asked them like 3 or 4 times. And you're like, oh yeah, you're from there. And it's just one of those things where if you're a streamer, if you feel like you've made a connection with your streamer or something that you like, and they don't remember something, don't take that personal. It's hard to play a video game, be entertaining, make sure your levels are right, make sure everything's going on, and do that for hours a day. So that's just part of it. And as the more you spend time in the community, the more they get to know you. Like, poor L0rinda's gotten to know me so bad, he finally agreed to be on my podcast, which, it took months of wearing him down. So 2 final questions. I know you're really close to partner. I mean, I don't know you're really close to partner, but you seem to have the numbers. How close are you? And is that something you actually care about or not?
I got close sort of this time last year and applied. Got the usual turned down, even though they were wrong. Like, you've only had raids. No, I took the raids out. I know I was averaging significantly over 75 this time, minus raids. And then my year got a bit weird, and I didn't stream quite as much as I wanted. Still quite a lot. I'm currently below the numbers, but honestly, I haven't checked how much more you get now for partner. People have told me it's changed a bit. I don't need the label of partner to make my life happier. I could have cheated it many years ago if I wanted. I had several opportunities to get it through backdoors and stuff. If it is a monetary thing, then obviously I can't live on fresh air as much as I'd like to. So more money is good, but it's not something I'm going to push for. I'm going to stream to the best of my ability, and if it's good enough, the numbers will come, and if it's not, they won't. If I get the numbers, I will apply. But I don't look at it every day going, oh, I'm 0.73 short or whatever. I just stream and see what happens.
All right, final question before we move on to talking about the new expansion. What is Clock Tower?
Okay, Blood on the Clock Tower, a game I play a lot of, which is why you're asking, presumably. Social deduction game along the lines of Werewolves, Among Us, Mafia, Salem, whatever. A lot of people, it's been a very big hit in the last 3 or 4 years. A lot of streams online for it. And I've been lucky enough to be a big part of that community, a medium part of that community. I'm not at the top level. A lot of very friendly people in there, a lot of very diverse people in there. And we, there's regularly scheduled games that I play in, and we sit around and lie to each other. Having said I can't lie on stream all day, we sit around and lie to each other about who's evil and who's good for hours on end. And I don't socialize much with people in real life. I struggle a little bit around humans for too long because I'm a bit strange. But Clock Tower, 2 hours burst of 12 people and a bit of socializing. Yeah, we can do that. And the game is incredibly intricate and interesting. And if you played any of those other games, you'll understand that the big difference in Clock Tower, the reason it's been so popular, is when you die, you're still allowed to take part in the game and talk to people. You just don't have an ability anymore. You're still in the game. Unlike Among Us, where when you die, you have to shut up for 40 minutes while everyone else plays, or Werewolves. And the big breakthrough was somebody realizing, hey, why are we cutting people out of the game when they can still play and share the information they did gain when they were alive? It's just they've got less information, sure, but just let them play. Just let them carry on playing when they're dead. It's so blooming obvious when you hear it said, but no one ever made a game like that before. So that's what we do. We just play Werewolves when you can talk when you're dead. It's basically what it is.
Fair enough. And you're right about Among Us, especially when you die, like you're the one killed, like in the first 30 seconds, 3 or 4 games in a row. So like, well, this is no fun.
Exactly that. Exactly that. I played Werewolves one night, died first twice, and the first game took 3 hours, and the second game took 2 hours. I was at the bar on my own all night. It's like, okay.
Wow.
So when this came out, it's like, yeah, this sounds like a much improved version of the game. So let's do that.
All right, fair enough. So Whizbang's Workshop launched on Tuesday. It's Thursday now, so we've had roughly 2.5 days to play so far. So, Dawn, why don't you start us off? What has been your favorite deck so far, and what have you been playing since launch?
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, I've been playing a couple different things. I've been trying like some buff, quilter, quillbore, death knight stuff. I definitely have tried, and it was like 50, maybe just under 50% win rate. Some testing dummy warrior with the wrench, the bomb wrench. I love setting
Did you
that
make that work? Did you get that to work?
Yeah, pretty decently actually. Well, 47 to 50% win rate, but that's decent. I feel like
Homebrew, that's decent. Yeah.
But yeah, so that was pretty fun. But I have been spending quite a bit of time on Demon Hunter, as I mentioned earlier. And I'm still working on the name because at first I was like, I'm going to call it Menagro DH, and then which is Menagerie Aggro. And then I was like, well, this actually isn't really aggro because I end up going like, I have ended games on turn 5, but it's usually around turn 8 or 9, maybe, that like I can end games. Sometimes it goes a little longer. So I'm like, is it a mid-range deck? Maybe I'm just going to call it like Menagerie Range. I don't know. I'm trying to be too fancy with the name probably. But yeah, basically it's like a menagerie style Demon Hunter deck that tops out with the green rag that L0rinda was talking about earlier. But it runs the new 3/3 Battlecry Death Rattle Lifesteal Quill Boar. It runs like several of the demons, so like the new miniaturized demon, the not puppeteer, that's Death Knight, and those fell screamers to discount demons. I also have the Titan in there, so I can potentially discount my whole hand, all the minions by 2. That's super fun. The weapon that has the death rattle to draw a demon and discount it by 2. Also, I cannot remember what it's called, but Bartendo Bot, the 2 mana 3/1 that pulls an outcast card and puts it to the left of your hand. That's a mech. So I've got all this, and I'm only running 2 copies of Blind Box, which is the one that if it's outcast, you get to discover the 2 demons. And then the 2 copies of Midnight Wolf. And those are the only outcasts. So I pretty consistently get to play an outcasted Midnight Wolf on turn 6. Or I get to play it for 4 mana. Just playing a couple other like curve things, Posic and stuff. And of course the Leroy. Because charge. Charge is good. Charge goes face. We smack them with big things. And then we hit them with the Eldari Inquisitor at the end. And turns out that's good. But my favorite thing to do with the deck is that window shopper that you mentioned, L0rinda. I have very frequently gotten to play that for 1 mana. And then I get to play another one. And it's like, 1 mana 6/5s turns out are really good. Who would have guessed? Yeah. And it's been a ton of fun. I feel like I can curve out a lot of games. I've been trying a lot of stuff. I was trying the Floppy Hydra because also I have the bias that I got to reveal that card, and I was like, I want it to work. It wasn't very good because like it doesn't do anything when you play it. Like it's just kind of there, and then it gets killed, and then you play it again, and it's just kind of there, and it's like, okay. But a lot of the other cards like create other things, discount things, have rush, have charge or something. They do something immediately. So yeah, that one got cut pretty quickly. But this has absolutely been like my favorite thing that I've been playing. And also I just love Menagerie and big things. This is like Battlegrounds light, but I get to choose what I'm doing. It's what it feels like, and I love it.
How about yourself, L0rinda? What have you been playing and enjoying?
Very similar, actually. For one thing, by the way, I won a game with Floppy Hydra today because he got generated by one of my randomly generated secrets with the Hunter secret. And then it got copied with the Mage secret that copies your highest minion on the board with my temporary secrets. and that was just a big part of my board that won the game. I'm playing a very, very similar deck. But playing 1 mana 6/5 is my second favourite thing to do. My favourite thing to do is go turn 1 frequency oscillator, turn 2 coin out my 5/7 Ziliax that doubles every turn in attack and kill people on turn 3. They technically die on turn 4, but they always concede on turn 3. That is actually disgusting.
That's amazing.
It's basically unbeatable if you get that start. It's someone in chat or someone listening will be saying, "Oh, it's not unbeatable. You can do that." Yeah, okay, it's not actually unbeatable, but no one's beat it yet, and no one will anytime soon.
Very nice. Anything else you've been enjoying?
I think I've just enjoyed that we've got a different feeling meta. I know that at the very, very top, it's still all warrior, but I think everywhere apart from the top 100. Classes do what you expect them to do. Rogue does rogue things. Druid does druid things. We all know what those things are, but they're doing them in different ways, and I think it's a much-needed change. I think one or two of the sets and expansions over the last few years have not felt like a rotation, but this one feels like a rotation. I think we're playing, a different version, a better version of Hearthstone now.
I think the only deck that I think we've seen a little too much, or at least I've seen a little too much of, has been in Odin Warrior. That has still been a quite significant percentage of games I've played. But outside of that, it's felt like the meta has been really diverse. All the classes seem to have different things that they can do. It's been fun. Like I said, I've been playing aggro pally is the real thing right now, and I'm sure it'll get touched in the first nerf. But Dancing Paladin's valid. It's been fun. Like I said before, I've been playing the Rock and Roll Warrior. It's not good, but it's fun, and I again just want it to be a little bit better. I've actually haven't played all the classes. I've played a little bit of the Sonya Rogue, but for the most part, I played a little bit of the Buff DK, that's a lot of fun too. The Puppet Master is a really good card. It's a really fun card. You drop there, you get the miniaturize, and all your things have +4/+4. It's hard to hate that, but it doesn't feel as typically bad as some of the early metas where it's just like there's that one or two decks that everybody's playing because they're clearly head and shoulders the best deck. Even if everyone has their own experience, like I've seen the Hunter deck feel like it's really strong. I'm not looking forward to that, but it's also what I'm playing, and it just feels like the meta is countering each other, and there's a nice synergy there where nothing has kind of risen to the top yet, and hopefully that leaves more room for experimentation and that we don't have a solved meta for a little while. But since we do have this diverse meta right now, are there any decks that have surprised you that they're either viable or not viable? Dawn, how about you?
I mean, not really, surprisingly. I think if I had to pick one, again, for anybody that has listened to any of the stuff I did last week, I'm sure you heard me say McBanter face probably a bajillion times because I faced into McBanter like 8 times or something during during the theory crafting, and he just kept destroying me repeatedly with freaking spell druid that had repetitive ANRs, and I was like, I hate this. I hate that deck. Please get that away from me. But I haven't seen it a ton on ladder compared to what I thought I was going to see, so I'm glad that hasn't been as popular as I expected. But I mean, I kind of expected Paladin to be pretty strong. There's a lot of strong Paladin cards. Again, as I mentioned earlier, things that impact the board, there's a lot of that, and the hand buffs feel pretty good. So big stuff, not a lot of silence or necessarily huge removal. So yeah, a lot of stuff. I was like, yeah, that's probably going to be pretty good.
How about yourself, L0rinda?
I massively underrated Paladin. I realized after the theory crafting that it was going to be good, but when I first went through the cards, they all looked rubbish, and individually most of them still are, to be fair. It's just the whole collection that works well as a team. You could take some of those Paladin cards and put them in on their own, and they wouldn't actually be that great as cards. It's just they're very well synergized. I really wanted to play Spell Damage Druid, but not with the ANR stuff, but just loads of spell damage, but that doesn't seem to be a thing. I was a little surprised just how good Warrior is with no changes apart from the goggles. But yeah, the big surprise to me is Paladin and how powerful it is. And also, I hoped Hunter would be good because there were 2 cards I picked out. I'll tell you about those later, but one of them was a hunter card at the start, and it looks like hunter's going to be good. But I think that, okay, let's do sarcastic L0rinda mode. The biggest surprise I have is people wanting to play Rainbow DK when it's terrible. There you
go. The buff Rainbow DK is actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe not. We'll see how it settles out. But I played some of that, and it feels really strong when you can play that. The Quill Boar that does damage at the end of your turn, and you've buffed it to all hell, and you've cleared their board, and you have your Reska. There are a lot of tools there that go really well together. Not necessarily worried about playing that climatic necrotic explosion at the end, but just in general, if it's felt strong to me. Which, it's fine. They haven't, that package that they have with the Grime Street guy that makes everything poisonous, the 2/4 that draws when an undead dies, and then you have the crop rotation with the 4 minions that die at the end of the turn. Like, those 3 cards make a package that really kind of, I think, comes together for them. And none of those are new, but I'm surprised it took to the end of the meta last time to really kind of discover that. It seemed like that was just kind of staring us in the face, but we didn't really see it until more or less the last month or so. I'm surprised that Warlock is actually pretty decent. And I don't mean just like Control Warlock, which is actually still pretty good, but like Wheel Warlock seems better than I think we all thought. We all kind of laughed at it. It's like, you're never going to get to play 8 mana, do nothing, and then live for 5 turns. And I haven't seen it gimmicked. I haven't seen people playing Tony or anything like that. It's just basically they play the weapon to kind of stave off the fatigue damage. They play Sargeras. Sargeras brings up those taunts every turn that are really a pain to deal with, and they just kind of wait you out. Like, I was really surprised to lose to that deck, especially given the things I had. Now doesn't mean it's going to work forever, obviously, because I have to get down there Sargeras as soon as possible to prevent that. Like, you get a board, they have to Twisting Nether it with the Sargeras power, and then you can kind of take care of business. But it still has potential. It's still really good. So I'm really surprised that it's not just a meme. There's actually potential there at the moment. All right, so I know we've talked about this a little bit because it's kind of hard not to, but L0rinda, what are your overall thoughts on the meta so far? You liking it? You're not liking it? You think it's good? Bad?
Yeah, I'm liking it. I think it is a 2-deck meta at the very top end with Paladin and Warrior. I do think that pretty much everything is playable, possibly with the exception of Mage, although someone in my chat today was saying they've marched through Platinum and into Diamond quite easily with their version of Mage. So, again, sort of top-end problem, even if it's a bigger spread of the top end. The lack of Mage, which, let's face it, we saw so much Mage the last few years. Who cares? Go away, Mage. You can see I'm slowly drifting into tiredness. Let's have a look at my stats for the day. Let's see what else has happened. But yeah, the amount of Paladin is slowly sneaking up and probably is going to keep going up until it becomes untenable. But we're not there yet, and I think the meta is a good one. I think I'm looking at my stats now. I've played against every class in the last 2 days, and nothing stands out as actually completely ridiculous. Yeah, I'll take this meta.
I'm a little... One thing I forgot to mention in the deck surprises, Tendrils. Tendril Warrior, Tendril Shaman. Tendril Warrior is good because they get those tendrils out there. They get the brand battle cry. They get up to 10 real fast, and it's all the 10 mana mage spell that does 10 damage and summons the 10 mana minion and table flips. And that seems like is again another one of those decks where it seems like a meme, but I think it's actually pretty strong. So it's really kind of crazy to see tendrils be a thing now when they never really were. Like, you wouldn't even take them off Yogg. You're like, I guess I have to do it because I've used my other 2 options, or it's the only way I'm going to find them out. And now people are actually putting them in their decks, and it's kind of crazy. But Dawn, what are your thoughts on the meta?
I've really been enjoying it. I think there is a lot of variety. Again, as L0rinda has said, yes, other than like the very top end, which most of us are not in that very top end. We have to pay attention to it, but for the most part, I think there's a ton of like variety. And I think a lot of people, when they kind of initially saw the set, they're like, like just kind of single card. They were like, well, that card doesn't seem great. That card doesn't seem great. That card doesn't seem great. The whole set seems like low power level, but things are fitting together well without having to be like, okay, enter a certain keyword and then just put all the cards of that, like we don't have to put, oh, here's the 5 cards of Demon Hunter that you got to put in the deck. And then, that's what you play. Relic DH. You don't just say, okay, this card says Relic, put it in the deck and then build around that. Like I'm seeing, even though we're playing like L0rinda and I, right? We're both playing Demon Hunter. Maybe we do have a little bit of overlap, but there's a lot of like variety in how we've built the decks. There's a lot of variety in how people are building Paladin decks. I've even just looking at like HS Replay, I saw like 4 different varieties of Paladin, and there's still more coming out. It's just a lot of experimentation. I think people are really mixing and matching stuff. So I think that's a lot of fun and has been really good for a lot of people.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of tribal synergy, except for outside of like maybe Warrior with the mech stuff, right? So it's basically, it's almost like they're taking the training wheels off. It's like, hey, we've been doing this for 10 years. We're not going to have to give you these predefined packages. Just here's a bunch of cards that can work together. You figure it out. And I think that's really good, because normally that's what they do. They do in maybe the 5th set or 6th set is a little more of that when you have more cards. But usually in the 4th set meta, they give you some kind of like cohesiveness that obviously you're going to put those together. So I think it's interesting. I kind of like the direction. And you look at all the nostalgia cards, it's all like, they're not in a theme. They're all just like the theme of, we're doing something a card in the past used to do just a little differently. Shutterblock and the totem of the Demon Hunter totem gives you +2. And it's like, do these cards go together? Maybe not, but I like it. I think it gives us a lot of options. All right. So we're coming up on nerfs because Deck Tech said that he said today that their normal cadence will happen. So we're going to come up on some nerfs. Let's start with Dragonrider. Dragonrider, what would you nerf or buff? We usually don't get buffs this time around, but so what would you nerf in the set to keep the meta going if you have to make any buffs? Any nerfs?
I mean, buffs never really make a difference, sadly. As much as I want to believe that they do, I feel like a lot of buffs don't tend to happen very drastically. But
Hockey Galaxy?
Well, yeah.
All of Warrior. But yeah, you are. I do agree. So like all of Warrior was a buff.
No,
and didn't they have to buff it like 3 times though? Like they kept having to do it. Oh, and it's like, okay, like ramp it up. If we're gonna buff, like go big. That's how I feel. Like don't go big in terms of like here's 14 cards that we're nudging slightly, and then those 14 cards still don't see play. Like, give us something if you're going to buff up.
Well, they did something. I will argue against that. Like, a lot of times when they did, like, the Franken-meta stuff, who cares, right? Because, yeah, they made Energy Shaper better, but outside of that, whatever. But they took things like Relics. Relics took maybe 2 or 3 rounds of buffs before they became playable. Same thing with Play Your Last Rift. That took a little while, and then that became valuable. So I don't think buffs necessarily don't have an impact on the game. It's just, it's not often, but usually if they have something they want to be successful, they will put it out there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enough with the hot take. I guess we're going logic takes then. Okay. Fine. Reasonable, logical takes. Okay. I don't know. I feel like I would start with some Paladin stuff. Deputization aura to me feels a little strong. I kept saying this last week. Tigress plushie, I don't know. That's Tigress plushie is so good, especially with all the buffs and stuff. Leroy seems to be everywhere, but also I feel like that's more of a product of all of the buffing that really makes Leroy really strong, because Leroy can get very large with all those buffs, but also we're in a 4-set meta, and I feel like we tend to have in a 4-set meta at least one legendary that's kind of a game-ending card that tends to be a little strong. I think one example of that was when we had the Alexstrasza, right? It was just like deal 8, and then it was like ending games, and it was like, oh my gosh, this feels like it's just in every deck and it's ending every game. But then as soon as we got more cards, it's like it just kind of went away, disappeared. So I don't know. And I don't know how to address Warrior. I feel like Warrior definitely needs some changes, but I don't know how I would change it. So maybe L0rinda has some thoughts on that. That face is like, no.
I've got two parts to this, actually. So I wouldn't... I'm of the school where I think we now call for nerfs a bit too quickly. Over the Christmas period when there weren't any nerfs, the meta was a little bit wobbly at the time. Quite boring. When it was actually left and we were told you're not getting any nerfs, we're all having our Christmas break, new decks started to appear when people weren't just relying on the nerfs. Things started coming through. People started, I can't remember which deck it was that was just everywhere, but people just started being able to counter it. Yeah, it involved maybe putting some tech cards in your deck. Yeah, maybe you had to play some stuff you didn't want to, but things started to counter other things over time. And I personally, being an old school sort of person, would like to go back to fewer nerfs. I don't mind a nerf window after release because there's always going to be a problem. Like millions of players versus 3 playtesters or whatever it is, you're going to solve it quicker than they are. But I think that we nerf too much. That being said, I agree almost exactly with what Dawn said there. Paladin, the auras need something. Some of the Divine Shield Rush needs something, but I'm not sure what. You need to be able to kill them somehow, eventually. And they just don't die right now, which was predicted by Banterface, I think, and a couple of others. Warrior, chuck it in the bin and start again. I'm not sure what you do. The Warrior needs not to be able to do the thing it's currently doing so consistently well. I don't mind it personally. I've always not minded control decks that kill you. This is a control deck that kills you. But I know a lot of people don't get much fun out of, I play my one card, I kill your card on curve with my card that kills it. I play my card, I kill your card on curve and draw a card. It's a style of play I actually enjoy myself, but I don't think it's that particularly healthy. And if you went with those two classes being nerfed, I think you probably have to nerf the RC Hounds in Hunter. I think if you got rid of Warrior, that card would be unstoppably good. So got to be a little bit careful when messing with ecosystems this early when we don't really understand them. Because Hunter, if we nerf those two decks we just talked about and left Hunter the same, Hunter would be untenably. We'd all be dying on turn 4 every single game to it. I think it would be an enormous part of the meta.
Yeah, and I feel like the amount of times that has been the case specifically for like Hunter, they always kind of do those nerfs, and it's like, well, yeah, because they know that if they change the other things and not Hunter, Hunter's just going to then dominate. And the amount of times that they've had to adjust Hunter along with other stuff when Hunter doesn't necessarily feel like it's running away with the meta is right. is tracking upwards very, very high, I feel like.
Just to finish on that point, and we've got to be careful that when you start that discussion down that road, suddenly you end up with Yeti on Yeti meta after 3 days of a new expansion. Everyone goes, this is boring, it's all Yetis. Yes, because you've nerfed everything. You've shouted at Blizzard, you've told them to nerf everything, and we've nerfed everything, and now all we've got left is Yetis. And every time the community does this, and it really upsets me because Blizzard feel obliged to nerf cards, and we end up with Yetis. And it happens every time. So I'd rather suffer some decks that I don't enjoy for a little bit longer and see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to say, what I think I just heard was Hattrick complaining that Blizzard hates Hunter. Because that's what usually happens. Obviously, I don't agree with the Paladin nerfs, but yes, I agree with the Paladin nerfs ideas. Maybe instead, like, take the Divine Shield off Tigress plushie. Leave that, so you don't get the double value. I don't know. I'm hoping they don't nerf it into the ground because it's been a lot of fun. I hope they don't nerf anything into the ground. The one thing I would change is Reno. Make Reno cost 10. Make Reno symmetrical, something, because it's just it just takes the fun out of it's a card that just takes the fun out of what we're doing. We have these things and counters, and it just kind of, I don't know. It's way too. It's the strongest card, it feels like, in the game, and it just doesn't even feel close. And people are playing it in a like they used to play the old Reno. Hyper draw decks are playing it. Warlock is playing it in the deck that they have with the wheel. We're seeing it everywhere. It's too strong. And so I'd like to see that changed. And yeah, I would like to see something. I don't know what you would do to Odin Warrior. Maybe make Odin 10. I don't know what you could do with that, but it definitely needs a tweak as well.
I wouldn't touch the Odin. No, the Odin kills you. That's the good part of the deck. That's the bit that they've built towards. They've earned that Odin. They've cleared the board on 7. They're allowed to play an Odin on 8, and then they've got to take the damage that's coming on 8. That's fine. Odin is not the problem with Odin Warrior. It's how they get there so easily that's the problem.
All right, fair.
For me.
No, and I agree, and I don't have an idea on how to nerf that one. I just know that it needs a tweak. I would recommend, outside of Nodin, I would take Trial by Fire and burn that card in a dumpster out back.
They don't even play that in a lot of the builds anymore.
I know, but I still hate that card.
Yeah. I think they have to kill one of the draw cards and just absolutely just ruin it. Like give it the Warsong Commander treatment. I don't know which one. Maybe not the goggles because they're new, but maybe the 2/2 Stone Skin. So you just can't draw 2 cards for 2 so easily. Something needs nuking in that deck, and it's not much.
I don't like how both their Forge cards are clears, because Bellowing Flames and Sanitize, they both activate their Ignis and also just clear your board at opportune times. So I don't like that, but I think but again, I agree with both. I agree with you, L0rinda. I don't want to see nerfs right now outside of Reno. So I hope they go with a very, very light touch here just to kind of tweak things. But nerfing cards for the sake of nerfing cards, they usually go a little too quickly in these first couple weeks, even if something feels overbearing in the first couple days, which nothing has. Give it some time to breathe. Let somebody develop the counter. And once you have the counter, how does that shift the meta? Let the meta settle for a while, and then when it's like everyone's playing 50% playing Death Knight and 25% playing Warrior, whatever, then make the adjustments. But let it breathe. Let us discover what we need to. So what's your favorite card so far, L0rinda? What card do you just love in this new set?
There's 2.
Okay.
When they were released, when I saw the list, Window Shopper and Jungle Gym both stood out as absolute cards I wanted to play. When we had the theory crafting before that, I've played a lot of Window Shopper. I want to keep playing Window Shopper, and I faced a lot of Jungle Gym, and yeah, it looks like a great card, but I want to play more Window Shoppers.
Fair enough. How about yourself, Don?
Oh, it's so hard because I feel like I've really enjoyed a lot of the new stuff. I think I'm going to kind of cheat and say 2. In terms of just like good value, Scarab Keychain, amazing. I've been loving that card. But like Tigress plushie, yeah. But testing dummy, man, just getting to like pop off that death rattle and like just send a bunch of damage to my opponent's face multiple times it's such a cool feeling. I love that card.
I thought you were going to say Floppy Hydra. I really did. Even if it's not working for you, I thought you were going to say it no matter what.
And I want it to be, but I can't.
And I was thinking about this answer. I don't really have a favorite card yet. Like, I like Tarim. He's a great card. I like Sonya because it's like you have to think how you're going to do that. And I've screwed that card up so many times by playing the gift and then thinking I can play the next thing. But no, I like the weapon in the Paladin now that, it's lifesteal 2/3, 2/4, buff your minions +1. And I can't tell you how many times I misorder that as well, because you got to play a character, you got to play a guy, but then you get a miniature and you got to swing, and then you got to, like, you would think I'd be down on this right now, but this is where I fail so often. It's like I sit there like, I should have swung. Oh, I should have played a character. Oh, I should have traded. And it's those things where I don't know, but I don't really have a super favorite card now. There's not one that I've really latched onto, because nothing at all, like I think what L0rinda said before makes a lot of sense, and what you said before, Dawn, is like everything kind of combines and there's nothing really like separating itself. And I like the amalgamation of everything that I'm playing, not necessarily a particular card. But speaking of favorite cards, if you could bring one card back that rotated, that you just miss the heck out of, L0rinda, what card would you bring back?
Honestly, I'm so terrible at rotation that I'm not sure what's gone and what I missed. So I'm going to give you a different answer. Instead of bringing a card back, I'd remove Renathal again just to make sure it's definitely gone.
Fair. And I think most of us would agree with you. How about yourself, Don?
That's actually just like the best answer. I love that. Yeah. So I also, as soon as cards rotate, like they leave my brain. I'm like, they no longer exist. They're gone. So I had to look at this earlier. I had to give myself the time to look it up. But I decided Fell Scale Evoker, which is the Demon Hunter Demon Naga. It's 6 mana and it's a 5/7. Battle cry: if you've cast 3 spells while holding this, summon a different demon from your deck. Just because I think that bringing those Inquisitors out of the deck again would be just so much fun. Although it would be very sad to pull the Window Shopper out and not get your mini. So that would be a little sad. But that would be fun. I want to bring that back. It got to shine for like a whopping, 3 days or something, and then got changed.
I love the juxtaposition of some of those cards, though, that you want to play them, but then, like, same thing as like with Tier, and you want to play Tier, but you don't want Tier to come from tiers, and that kind of thing. Like, I love when there's like, it seems like there's synergy, but there's anti-synergy at the same time, and you got to kind of figure out what's what. I have 2. I'm going to cheat 2, and I'm going to pick 2 cards. I'm going to pick the Countess because I love the Countess. That was my favorite card. I played way more pure Paladin than I ever thought I would because the better deck was the non-pure aggro deck where you had the eggs and the Miracle Salesman, but I didn't care because I wanted to play the Countess because the Countess was a puzzle. And it's like, how can I take the cards that I'm getting here and how can I finagle a lethal? And then it's like, oh, I drew Lady Sathanos and I can throw a Garden's Grace on her. And then, then I pulled Ramoth, which will give me more invitations. And it was always, I think it made the games more interesting at the end because it was never the same. And it was always a puzzle to figure out. And the other card I would pick would be, and I understand that there's no support for this, but I would love to keep Benedictus back because I love the Purple Priest. I love and I know L0rinda wasn't one of your favorite decks, but I just loved it's a different way to play Priest. And one of the things I kind of wish that Hearthstone would do in the future is kind of like what they did with duels. But like if you play any of these classes in Warcraft, you have Fire, Frost, Arcane as a mage. You have Healing and Shadow as a priest. You have Fury and you have Protection as a warrior. I wish that you could pick your hero power that kind of could go along with the deck you're playing. So maybe you could change. I think that if you had like each kind of class that you have has its different specs, that you could kind of pick those and then play these decks a little more to the flavor of the style that you're playing with. So I would like to take Benedictus back, but even though I know that Benedictus would be useless right now because you don't have all the support tools that go with it. But yeah, bring back the Countess. I miss her. So when you talked about this, I think we're all happy with the set and the meta, so we can kind of skip that question. But L0rinda, you got any final thoughts before we wrap this show up?
I know, I was just looking to see how many games of Priest I played with Benedictus. It's over 300 though. But before the deck that you're talking about, sort of the year before, I played it a lot. Just because I say a deck's bad doesn't mean I don't play it a lot. And just because it's bad doesn't mean I actually think it's bad a lot of the time. I don't know, final thoughts, it's all going well. I think we're on track for a good year of Hearthstone, a good celebration year. And hopefully it keeps progressing how it has done so far. One round of nerfs can ruin it or make it amazing. And a round of no nerfs can do the same. So rather the design team have that problem than me, just keep doing what they're doing and hope they carry on making good decisions.
Don?
Yes. Gonna echo that sentiment. Rather them than me, I will just continue hitting my opponents in the face with large minions and enjoying it. And they can figure out if they need to change stuff.
Fair enough. And I'm the same way. I love a solved meta. Like, I love being able to jam thousands of games on a deck and, try to figure out how to best take advantage of the meta and how to play these metas. But I also like a new meta. It's fun. It's exciting. And it just feels balanced. And that's all we want. You just don't want to see the same deck every single time you queue up. And then it's, here's Control Warrior again. Here's Control Priest again. Thankfully, Priest hasn't been that good. So I think we can all agree that yay, please no. But I just it's great. It's Hearthstone's awesome. We love Hearthstone. We do podcasts about Hearthstone. We stream Hearthstone. We love the game. And here's to 10 more years. And love it. I think they knocked this set out of the park. And I think they've been doing that. I would say since even though there's been problems here and there, I think they've had great sense. What was the underwater one with the Colossals?
Voyage
of the Sunken City. Yeah. I think pretty much since then, they've just been every set has been a banger. So well done, Hearthstone team, and keep it up. This is normally where I say, but Doc, that was a lot, kind of full, but yep. I have room for dessert. And he'd say, yeah, dessert sounds great. So L0rinda, what is your favorite dessert?
I don't really eat dessert, but for the sake of the show, if I did eat a dessert, it would definitely be something with chocolate in. Probably chocolate brownie, chocolate cheesecake, something like that. It'll be something chocolatey. I
thought you were going to go with more of an English answer there. Or a UK answer, like kidney pie or something. I don't know. All right. Well, listener, you know the drill. We have a podcast. We're on all the platforms. You can find us on Apple, which is where you can leave comments. You can find us on Spotify, where you can leave us a star review. Let us know how we're doing. You can find us on Twitter. We're at Bread and Butter. I don't remember the thing. I can look it up in a second. But you can go find us on Twitter. We're there. You can reach out to us. Just let us know how we're doing. If you rank us high, give us 5 stars. Hopefully more people can find the show, because this is one of the things I'm thinking about a little bit lately is we have, I would say, the best guests in Hearthstone podcasting. Week after week after week, we have just banger after banger after banger of people that we've interviewed, returning guests. I mean, we have the two of the top casters right now sitting here with me. We had the world champion a couple weeks ago. We've had Ron Mexico. We have all these people that you want to hear from, and other people are going to want to hear from them too. They just got to know we exist. So help get that word out. Remember, it's not a pyramid scheme. It's an obelisk scheme. All you need to do is tell one person, and let them know that, hey, this is awesome podcast, that they have lots of great interviews with great people. And that's all we're looking for. So we appreciate everybody that's listening. L0rinda, where can people find you on social media?
I'm so bad. L0rinda Games is my Twitter account, whatever Twitter's called these days. And on Twitch, it's L0rinda, but with a 0, because why wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, so it's L0rinda, not L0rinda, because I'm great at marketing myself. So yeah, do whatever you do with those things. You know where to avoid now. Fair
enough. And I cut and paste the show notes, and I replaced Doc with L0rinda because Dragonrider was here last week. And one thing I missed was that where you can find L0rinda on social media is L0rinda McButt. So I don't think you're going to find what you're looking for.
I just typed LOL in the document.
But Dragonrider, where can people find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at DonnieDK, DAWNIEDK. You can find me Twitch and YouTube, Dragonrider TCCG, talking everything standard Hearthstone at the Dr. 3HS podcast, and talking everything, just a bunch of card games all in one at the TCCG Roundtable.
And you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Tito Santana HS. L0rinda, do you have any shout outs this week?
No, not really. Obviously just the people who are regular in my stream, for helping me build my deck and sticking with me when I win and when I lose. So thanks for having me on the show as well. Appreciate that.
Oh, I appreciate you being here. Dawn, how about yourself?
And
well, I'm going to shout out L0rinda for being a wonderful guest and joining on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk to L0rinda every time that I do. It's always so much fun. And just shout out to you again. This is like a double shout out, but for, as you mentioned earlier, kind of that like helping make me feel more comfortable and like welcomed when I have casted. And that has been definitely something that has stuck with me. So double shout out for L0rinda.
Fair enough. Yes, L0rinda, thank you. And for those that don't know, it is almost morning in EU right now where L0rinda is. So he's probably going to have to get off the podcast, have a cup of coffee, and go stream or something pretty soon because it's probably not that far away. But thank you for being on. I'm hoping to get you on again at some point to actually talk about casting and what that takes and all that. So I appreciate you being on. A little bit of programming notes. We are not going to record again until the 31st. We are recording on a Thursday. We want to give you time to listen to the episode that we just recorded now before we record the new one. On that, we're going to do a retrospective. We're going to pull one out for duels. We're going to have Dano, Chalker, and Enthrallment on, so we can just, say goodbye there. Because remember, duels is almost gone, so get in there, play, spend your tickets, enjoy it one last time. And L0rinda, obviously, thank you. It's awesome to have you here. And I want to thank all the devs, Minty Fresh, Celestalon, Cora, Sage, Ridiculous Hat, Nick, Deck Tech, and everyone we don't know. This launch has been awesome. It's been, for the most part, I think, one of their smoothest launches, and it's just been one of their most balanced launches. I'm sure they get grief all the time, but we appreciate you. But anyway, that's it. We're toast. We'll see you.
Goodbye.
You get to say goodbye, L0rinda.
Oh, goodbye. Sorry. Bye, everybody. I messed up every podcast I've ever done like this because I just don't speak properly. Bye, everyone. Have a good time. See you soon.